While I was doing my initial rotation in February of 1998, I was on the applicant squad performing background checks. I read in an Arabic newspaper published in London about the fatwa signed by bin Laden and other radical clerics sanctioning the murder of an American citizen anywhere in the world. The statement had been issued in the name of the World Islamic Front. It claimed that because America had declared war on God, it was the duty of every Muslim to kill Americans. The ruling to kill the Americans and their allies, civilians and military, is an individual duty for every Muslim who can do it in any country in which it is possible to do it, in order to liberate Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem and the Holy Mosque, the Grand Mosque in Mecca, from their grip, and in order for their armies to move out all the lands of Islam, defeated and unable to threaten any Muslim. Unaware of any existing bureau focus on bin Laden, and seeing that his rhetoric had morphed from vague utterances to direct threats, I wrote a memo explaining who he was and recommending that the FBI focus on the threat he posed to the United States. I gave the memo to my applicant squad supervisor, who said that she would pass it on to Kevin Cruz. She explained that Kevin was on the I-49 squad, under whose purview bin Laden fell. After receiving the memo, Kevin asked to see me. He introduced himself and explained what I-49 did. It focused on Sunni terrorist groups, including Jemaah Islamiyah and the Egyptian Islamic Jihad. It covered the first World Trade Center bombing, and after that, it kept the focus on bin Laden, given the link between the plot and people in bin Laden's orbit. I showed Kevin portions of the bin Laden's fatwa in August of 1996, the declaration of war against America, issued in response to the U.S. presence in the Arabian Peninsula. Terrorizing you while you are carrying arms in our land is a legitimate responsibility and morally demanded duty. It is a rightful act well known to all humans and all creatures. Your example and our example are like a snake that entered into a house of a man and got killed by him. The coward is the one who lets you roam free and safely while carrying arms in his country. Kevin was fully aware of the background information and said that the FBI was already pursuing a criminal case against bin Laden. Dan Coleman was the Bureau's bin Laden expert, and Kevin later introduced me to him. At the time, Dan was assigned to the CIA's Alex Station, set up by the agency's Counterterrorism Center in 1996 to monitor bin Laden's activities. Initially, the Counterterrorism Center was called the Counterterrorism Center IC. Kevin was introduced me to the other members of the I-49 squad, and we discussed the fatwa, agreeing that it was a serious warning and that an increased focus on bin Laden was definitely needed. Kevin told us that the other branches of government were in full agreement. In May of 1998, at the surveillance phase of the new rotation, I was working a mob case. I was paged by the office. I called in and was patched through to Kevin. Ali, he said, bin Laden has just done an interview with ABC. He's talking openly about attacking the United States. Later that afternoon, I stopped in to watch it. The interview, which occurred as an offshoot of a press conference called by bin Laden, was conducted by John Miller, who later went on to work for the FBI, and bin Laden was quite direct. Today, however, our battle against the Americans is far greater than our battle was against the Russians. Americans have committed unprecedented stupidity. They have attacked Islam and its most significant sacrosanct symbols. We anticipate a black future for the Americans. Instead of reminding the United States, it shall end up separated states and shall have to carry the bodies of its sons back to America. What do you think? Kevin asked. I shook my head. That's it, I told him. That's the third warning. First, there was the 1996 Declaration of Jihad, then the February fatwa, and now he's going public straight to the American people. I think it's a warning that al-Qaeda is about to attack. We need to be prepared. We didn't realize how right we were. 2 months later, the U.S. embassies in Nairobi, Kenya, and Dar es Salaam in Tanzania were bombed. My initial rotation was up, and it was time to decide on a squad. I had become friends with a few agents in I-40, which dealt with Palestinian terrorist groups like Hamas, as well as terrorist sponsoring countries like Iraq under Saddam Hussein. The squad supervisor, Tom Donlin, who had been the case agent on several important cases, including the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, took me to see Pat Diamuro. On Pat's desk was a box filled with packets of Advil, Tylenol, and other painkillers. For all the headaches related to the task force, he liked to joke. I spent a fair amount of time with him that day. He spoke about his experience in running a task force made up at the time of more than 35 federal, state, and local agencies handling virtually every terrorist group and state sponsor of terrorism around the world, and of the importance of agents remembering that they are bound by the Constitution. He said that we should never forget about the end game, disrupting terrorist plots while keeping all options on the table, including prosecutions in a court of law. Tom Donlin told Pat that he thought I was a subtle candidate for counterterrorism, based on my educational background in international affairs and my personal background as someone born in Lebanon and fluent in Arabic. Pat asked if I was interested in joining the Joint Terrorism Task Force. He explained that the JTTF was the first such effort in the nation, and that it was made up of various squads that covered virtually every terrorist group in the world, as well as the states that sponsored them. Agents, investigators, analysts, linguists, and other specialists comprised of the team, drawn not only from the Bureau, but other law enforcement intelligence agencies as well. I gratefully accepted the invitation. Pat then took me to meet John O'Neill, whose office was on the 25th floor of the FBI building. I stared for a few seconds out the window. John had the corner office, with huge windows and a view of lots of Manhattan. You could see the Empire State Building. We sat down on couches next to a coffee table piled with books on French art and Ireland. And of course, we spoke about terrorism.